The moment she said those words, my heart almost stopped. We were deep in the woods on a quiet summer afternoon when everything suddenly turned into chaos. My friend's mom grabbed her leg, her face pale with fear, and whispered through clenched teeth, "A snake, it bit me." Then she looked straight at me and said something I never expected to hear in my life. "You have to suck the poison out, now." In that moment, time seemed to freeze. I wasn't a doctor. I was just a teenager standing in the middle of a forest trail, staring at someone who looked like she might collapse any second. My mind raced with fear, confusion, and one powerful question. What do you do when someone needs help, and you're the only one there? Before we begin this story, take a second to support the channel. If you enjoy heartfelt stories that remind us how powerful kindness can be, please subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Welcome to Your Channel Name, where real stories inspire us to become better people. Now let me tell you what happened that day. It was one of those warm Saturday afternoons in early summer. The sky was clear, the air smelled like pine trees, and everything felt peaceful. My best friend Jake had invited me to go hiking with him and his mom, Linda. They lived just outside a small town in Oregon, surrounded by miles of beautiful forest trails. Linda was the kind of person everyone loved. She had this warm smile that made people feel comfortable instantly. She volunteered at the local school, baked cookies for neighbors, and always asked how everyone was doing. Honestly, she treated me like one of her own kids. That day we were hiking a narrow dirt path surrounded by tall trees. Sunlight filtered through the branches, painting golden patterns across the trail. Jake had run ahead a little to take pictures of a small waterfall we heard nearby. I stayed behind with Linda, walking slowly while she told stories about when Jake was younger. We were laughing about how he once tried to build a treehouse that collapsed in 10 minutes when suddenly she stopped walking. At first, I thought she had just stepped on something sharp. Then I heard a quick rustling sound in the leaves. Linda gasped. Her hand instantly grabbed her upper thigh. "Oh my God," she whispered. I froze. "What happened?" I asked. She looked down at her leg, and I followed her gaze. Just a few feet away, sliding quickly through the leaves, was a snake disappearing into the brush. Linda's face turned white. "It bit me," she said quietly. My stomach dropped. I had never seen a snake bite before. My brain struggled to process what was happening. "Are you sure?" I asked nervously. She lifted her hand slightly, and I saw 2 small puncture marks on her thigh. A thin line of blood was already forming. That's when she looked directly at me, her eyes serious. "You have to suck the poison out," she said urgently. "Now." My heart pounded. I had heard that advice before in movies and stories, but suddenly it didn't feel heroic or dramatic. It felt terrifying. What if I do it wrong? I thought. What if it makes things worse? I hesitated for a second. And I'll be honest, fear was winning. But then Linda placed her hand gently on my shoulder. Her voice was calm, even though she was clearly in pain. "It's okay," she said softly. "I know you're scared. But you're here, and that matters." Something about those words changed everything. She wasn't yelling. She wasn't blaming me. Instead, she showed trust. And kindness. Right there in that moment, when she was the one who needed help. Jake suddenly came running down the trail after hearing us shout. "What's going on?" he asked. "Snakebite," Linda said. Jake's eyes widened with panic. "What do we do?" Linda took a slow breath. "First, stay calm," she said. "We need to get help." I remembered something I had learned in a school safety class. "You're not actually supposed to suck the poison out," I said suddenly. Both of them looked at me. "It can make things worse," I explained quickly. "We need to keep you still and call for help." Jake pulled out his phone with shaking hands. "No signal," he said. "Of course." We were deep in the forest. For a moment, it felt like we were completely alone. But Linda stayed calm. "Okay," she said quietly. "Jake, run to the trailhead parking lot and get help. It's about 15 minutes away if you run." Jake hesitated. "I don't want to leave you." Linda smiled gently. "You're not leaving me. You're helping me." Jake nodded and sprinted down the trail. Now it was just Linda and me. She slowly sat down on a large rock. "You're doing great," she told me. I almost laughed. "I feel like I'm doing the opposite of great," I admitted. She chuckled softly despite the situation. "You stayed. That's what matters." I sat beside her and tried to remember everything about first aid. I tied a bandana loosely above the bite area and helped keep her leg still. Minutes felt like hours. But Linda kept talking to me the entire time. Not about the snake. Not about fear. She talked about kindness. "You know something," she said quietly. "Most people think kindness is about big things. Heroic things. But it's really about small choices." I listened carefully. "Like what?" I asked. "Like choosing to stay when someone needs you," she replied. Her words stuck with me. Because honestly, I almost didn't stay brave at first. I almost panicked. But she made me feel like what I was doing mattered. Eventually we heard footsteps and voices echoing through the trees. Jake returned with 2 hikers and a park ranger. Relief flooded through me. The ranger quickly assessed the situation and radioed for medical help. Within 20 minutes, an ambulance arrived at the trailhead. They carefully carried Linda out on a stretcher. Before the ambulance doors closed, she reached out and grabbed my hand. Her smile returned. "You did exactly what you needed to do," she said. Weeks later, after treatment and rest, Linda made a full recovery. The snake turned out to be a venomous one, but thankfully the bite had been treated in time. One evening, Jake and I visited her at home. She was sitting on the porch drinking iced tea like nothing had happened. "You know," she said, looking at me, "people always remember dramatic moments. But what I remember most is kindness." I was surprised. "Kindness?" I asked. She nodded. "You stayed with me when you were scared. That's courage. But it's also kindness." That moment changed the way I think about helping people. Kindness isn't always comfortable. Sometimes it shows up when you're nervous, unsure, or afraid. Sometimes it's simply choosing not to walk away. Today, whenever I see someone struggling, even in small ways, I remember that day in the forest. A moment that could have been filled with panic instead became something else. A reminder that ordinary people can make extraordinary differences just by caring. So if you ever find yourself in a moment where someone needs help, remember this. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be fearless. You just have to be kind enough to try. Because one small act of kindness can mean everything to someone in their most difficult moment. And sometimes, it might even save a life. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to your channel name, and share this story with someone who believes in the power of kindness. And remember, kindness is never wasted. It always finds its way back into the world. Red Heart.